So for our last example with this, we want to graph one period of y equals 2 cosine x plus 1. Where it's very important to notice here, we have x on the inside and that plus 1 on the outside. So we're finally going to have that vertical shift that I talked about. Here, same idea though. The period is going to be the absolute value of a, which here is 2. No, that's not the period. What am I talking about? A is for amplitude. The amplitude is going to be 2, while the period is going to be that value of 2 pi over b. Oh, I got ahead of myself. So many letters, so little time. But here b is just 1, so our period is 2 pi. And in this case, we don't have a phase shift because there's nothing inside of that cosine. We do have a plus 1 on the outside. So our vertical shift, that value d, is equal to 1. That is, our entire picture is going to move up 1 unit. Everything that happens, just pull it up. Now from here, we actually have the same quarter periods as we did in that first example, because the period is exactly the same, QP, excuse me. Our quarter periods are still going to be in terms of that nice value pi over 2, and our starting point is going to be in terms of 0. And because of this, I'm going to skip a little bit past step 2, because all 5 of those points will be the same as they were in the first. They're going to be 0, pi halves, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. And we're going to move on to step 3 to actually make that table of all of our values. So at 0, we're going to have 2 times cosine of 0 plus 1. Cosine of 0 is 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. We get the point 0, 3. For our second point, we evaluate at pi over 2. We have y equals 2 cosine of pi over 2, but cosine of pi over 2 is 0, so we get 2 times 0 plus 1, or 1 for the point pi over 2, 1. Then at pi, we have 2 cosine of pi plus 1. Cosine of pi lands on the other side, negative. Negative 2 plus 1 gets negative 1, so we have the point pi negative 1. And then at 3 pi over 2, we have 2 cosine of 3 pi halves, which is a 0, plus 1 is 1, so we get the point 3 pi over 2, 1. And then finally, for our last point, we look at 2 pi, where if we take 2 cosine of 2 pi and add 1, we will get 3. So all told, we have the points 0, 3, pi over 2, 1, pi negative 1, 3 pi over 2, 1, and 2 pi over 3, 3, which if we want to plot for step 4, would net us a nice sort of cup shape, like so. But we don't have a step 5 to worry about here because we only wanted the one period, and that's what our process always gives us. And the last thing we're going to look at for this section, before moving on to section 4.7, I'll say I'm not skipping 4.6 because it's unimportant. I'm skipping it because, well, we have other things that I think are more important, although I will say you should get a little bit in there for the graph of tangent in particular. That's an important one. But anyway, I'll talk about that in a bit. For now, what we're going to be looking at is how we can use this stuff in the context of modeling.